Hello, Michael Swain here after Kansas basketball's 62-61 loss to West Virginia here not inside, I guess technically we're outside of Allen Fieldhouse. That was not a good performance from Kansas and not a good way to start Big 12 play. If you're the Jayhawks, it's a crazy stat for the first time in I think it's 34 seasons. Kansas has lost its conference opener. It's a pretty incredible streak when you think about the big picture and how competitive the Big 12 has been. That KU consistently has started on the right foot. That certainly was not the case here today, and it's a performance that I think is pretty worrying if you're going to talk about the big picture for KU and what this looks like. Just the nature of it. And I think honestly going from the start is the way to go, because I think for me the biggest concern is the starting lineup right now and the fact that it is unresolved. You know, Bill Self talked that on the pregame radio show that AJ Storr has been one of KU's best players in practice since they got back from Christmas break. And if you watch the game without watching that pregame clip, you know, you would have thought AJ had been really poor in practice and, maybe Self was trying something different by putting him in the starting lineup, because there just wasn't much going on. And you can see it from the first possession for KU offensively, the way that West Virginia was going to guard KU, where it was going to be what we've seen, for 18 months now, really since the start of last season, where teams are just not going to guard him. And it's a huge issue for KU right now. And when you look at this starting lineup, right, offensively it was terrible. There was guys standing around, no movement, ball, body, anything. And this is not a team with the starting lineup where you can afford it to be stagnant, because you're not going to have space on the floor without guys moving, because KJ's man's going to sag off. DeJuan Harris's man's going to go under screens. Like, AJ Storr's not hitting shots. Rylan Griffin's not hitting shots. Like, it's a big issue. And you look at the offensive performance from the starting lineup, it averaged 0.6 points per possession. I don't have the exact total numbers in minutes that it played, but I remember looking at that post game and thinking, man, that just sucked. It was not good at all. And Bill Self said as much post game. He called it out, said it's not been good. He talked about AJ Storr not being great and defensively not being great, but I think, look, offensively is what is holding Kansas back. You know that, I know that. How do you fix it? That's the question. And so for KU right now, you look at what that starting lineup did, and that's where my big concern comes from, because where do you pivot from here? You've tried Rylan Griffin in the starting lineup. It was fine. You tried AJ Storr in the starting lineup. It was fine, but there have been games where it's been okay with AJ there. There have been games where it's not. And you could say that for any number of players that have started with the other four players. And so KU gets off to a slow start, and they can't get anything going offensively. Defensively, it was rough for AJ. Self at one point coming out of it, or going into a timeout, I think it was the first timeout he called, at least from my vantage point, it looked like he was looking at AJ and gave him the 5+1, meaning you gave up 6 points with your defensive play right there. And that is not good when you've got Self that frustrated that he's doing that to a player as, he's walking to the bench. So that in and of itself is not a positive. And then KU gets down early, right? What was it, 13-3 or something like that? In the second half, West Virginia leads by as much as 18 points. And then the irony that the lineup that changes the game for KU is a two-big lineup, just not with KJ Adams on the floor. It's Flory Bidunga, who is actually a big man, right? He's got the qualities. He's a big man, and he gives you some of that, right? And for him to be the guy that goes out there and locks up West Virginia's offense, because make no mistake about it, Javon Small and the West Virginia guards were having a great game. They really were doing a great job against KU. And KU had no answer for it, right? Hunter Dickinson was struggling. It didn't matter who was out there, right? West Virginia was getting some looks. And then Flory goes out there, 6'9", looking like Bambi a little bit, just with his athletic, but he's just so athletic that he's able to stay in front of guys, and he's able to give you some stuff offensively in the paint, where you get in the ball around the rim, he can kind of muscle guys out of the way, unlike KJ Adams at this point in time. There are obviously different things that KJ will offer you, but you can't tell me that what Flory brought to KU today is not good enough. Like, he brought stuff that KU's not getting from its other two big lineup. So, look, KU gets back in the game. It's a 15-2 run. And then you get into kind of some of the sliding doors moments, if you will, right? Where there's the phantom Zeke Mayo stepping on the line. Did he? No, he didn't. It wasn't an over and back. That was just a bad call on the official, and the official said so. At least according to Bill Self, at least post-game. Then you've got the play where David Coit gets a steal and passes it to KJ. KJ goes and tries to lay it up. Just a missed attempt. Look, we can Monday morning quarterback this and say, should he have, shouldn't he have? Like, I'd lean patience in the moment, but look, I understand wanting to be aggressive, especially after, KJ's a guy with pride, and after what happened earlier in the game, like, he's going to want to set things straight and make it right and make a play at the end of the game to potentially win it for KU. So I don't blame him for trying to make a play. And then you get to the foul on Flory where, Bill Self talked about this post game where, should KJ have been the one on the big man for West Virginia, knowing that they're going to switch 5 and get Javon Small the ball. They didn't do it. Flory fouls. It's a freshman mistake. Should he have definitely not jumped? Like, you got to know in that moment, don't jump. Like, what he's going to try and do. Whatever. And then on the final play, Hunter gets it, fires a baseball throw to KJ, who tries to go up with it. Was he fouled? For sure. But it's the final second of the game. The officials are never going to call that. So I don't know what you expect. Should KU have called the timeout when KJ caught it so that, you can get actually a good look and not a guy fading away trying to shoot over someone who's getting bodied, So we can relitigate a lot of the final plays, but those are the plays that really, made the game go the way it did. And so for KU now, look, you're 0-1. And there's some big issues here because right now KU's got some lost players. Like Rylan and AJ are lost. Like, when they're out there, you can just see they're thinking. They're not playing aggressive. They're not being the players that Kansas recruited. That's the fact of the matter. And so right now, it just doesn't look pretty. And I think KU's gonna have to make some changes. I don't think you can go through Big 12 play playing KJ Adams 35 minutes a game and expect a different result. What's the saying, right? Insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. Well, right now, with the way things are trending, Kansas is trending in the same direction of playing the same 3 guys that played last year in a season Bill Self said Kansas fans would want to forget. Well, they're trending in the direction of doing that again this year. What's got to change, right? Well, you got to have guys push KJ Adams at least to get him out of the starting lineup, or else he is going to play a lot. That comes down to Rylan and AJ. And it also comes down to, I think, some flexibility from Bill Self maybe in different lineups and being willing to let guys make some mistakes. Now, I understand there are some non-negotiables. AJ Story, you cannot allow 6 points in the span of 2 minutes defensively. Rylan Griffin, you have to have good shot selection. But I think we're at the point now where you can kind of see where this is heading. And what's going to change it is different personnel, players improving. And so they've just got to figure it out. Because right now, this is the manageable part of the schedule, right? The start of Big 12 play. You play UCF on the road, you play Arizona State at home. But then what happens after that? You play Cincinnati, you play Iowa State, you play Baylor, you play Houston. You play K-State at home. There's some big games coming up, and it's pretty imperative that Kansas needed to start Big 12 play well, or else it's going to be out of the title race pretty early. So that's where things stand. Obviously got plenty of coverage up. Make sure you watch the Bill Self press conference. That's probably the most negative I've seen him in a post-game press conference in a very long time. And I thought it was really interesting hearing him talk about a lot of this different stuff. So those are my thoughts. Make sure you're checking all that stuff out. Check out fog.net. Thank you as always for watching these videos. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll keep them all coming throughout basketball season. We'll talk to you all again. Sunday game, that's different. Weird to get used to that for Big 12 play, but Sunday game, KU UCF, we'll talk to y'all after that one.